we bring in our friend Tom Murphy, Whole Hog Sports, Arkansas, Democrat-Gazette on the Lewis Automotive Group hotline. Tom, I think they hit 3 of the 4 requests here in the last couple days, the exception being the defensive tackle. Your thoughts on Arkansas's transfer portal haul thus far?
So far, so good. I mean, some of these guys could be impact players, and Philip Lee on the D-line and the cornerback Neal they like, and certainly guys who are going to contribute to the depth. And, I mean, it was much needed. I'm sure they were, aware of some of these guys as the portal opened, and they struck quickly. I think what's funny and interesting about the portal is Arkansas has been getting guys from, like Junekaj last year, from Albany, and they're getting guys from, like Maine. And it's just interesting to see where all the players come from and who all can. Like Larry Worth, he showed last year from Jacksonville State in Alabama, showed he can compete on the SEC level. So I just think it's fun that these kind of kids, this is to me, the upside of the portal. These kind of kids can get more money and play in the SEC and, kind of move closer toward fulfilling their dreams as opposed to, the other side of the portal.
Another one being John Ridgway. I know it's a little farther back, but you think about him coming over from, Illinois State. So they've definitely got some guys that are under the radar that have turned out to be SEC bona fide players. You mentioned Julian Neal. Neal's a pretty highly recruited player out of Stanford and I guess Fresno State. There was stuff with the coaching staff or whatever. Andrew, I don't remember all the specifics. Either way, he's an Arkansas Razorback. Did you see the picture of him, his dad, and Cal over the course of this weekend, Tom?
No, I missed out on that, man. I have to get back on social media. But, yeah, I mean, he's a guy who – you look at Stanford, and right now they're kind of, I don't know, maybe the poster child of weird stuff in college athletics. They joined a different conference. They're in the ACC, traveling across the country several times a year in all these sports. Their coach is investigated for Taylor, I believe, abusive, being abusive towards staff members. Then you read about it, and it's I'm not going to say it's just dismissive stuff. It's just strange. And then they have a horrible record, and he gets dismissed. And I've read his response to the complaints, and it's just strange, man. It's just so politically correct what's going on out there at Stanford. And so I guess Neal kind of saw what was happening out there and decided to move on.
Yeah. Tom Murphy with us, brought to you by the Arkansas Beef Council. We were discussing yesterday, Tom, kind of the level of excitement. You didn't have a red-white game due to the weather. Basketball's kept a lot of people's focus and attention, and the transfer portal there. We've come back to football a little bit more, but what are the penalties for this team? Or trying to sell tickets, trying to get more people involved when it seems like out of spring practice, the excitement level, I don't know if it's an all-time low, but I know the buzz on the street seems very low to me with what's going on with your baseball program, what's going on with basketball. Seems like right now, football at this point in the year is playing third fiddle.
Well, it may be. And, I mean, if you think about the enthusiasm, so to speak, relative enthusiasm on campus. If the baseball team had just won Game 3 or whatever the game was, Jimenez was 1 out away, they win the Georgia series, and if they win at home against A&M and win that series, it'd be a little bit of a different buzz. But I think you're right. I think Arkansas fans are caught in this. There was a certain pecking order, so to speak, in how much money these programs spent in recruiting and what have you 6-7 years ago. And Arkansas wasn't at the top. They're running about 9th, 10th, whatever, in the 14-team SEC. Then you add Texas and Oklahoma. That drops them down 2 more spots in spending. And when you add the NIL in and what certain programs got off to, like Ole Miss, traditionally might be spending less than Arkansas in total expenses. But with NIL, they move ahead of Arkansas. So Razorback fans are seeing Alabama, LSU, and Georgia and all these other schools accrue more portal talent because of NIL deals. And Arkansas, they're getting players, but they're just not stacking them up, they're not stacking up 5 stars and 4 stars the way all these other programs are. And on top of that, when you add in that some guys come in and play 1 year, like DeQuinton Jackson, it would have been so fun to have covered him 3 or 4 years. But they come in and play 1 year, you don't feel like you get to know them. And that's just disturbing. I think Arkansas fans, they want to get to know their players and feel connected to them. And I think that has to do with the relative enthusiasm of which you speak.
Yeah, and we didn't even get a chance to properly understand how to pronounce. Was it Matt? Say the last name for us here, Ty. Madden.
Iamaliava is
we're going to go with that.
But I feel like it's been said differently.
I can't imagine you would be wrong on that. But, Tom, one of the things we've been kicking around is, all right, he was here from January till yesterday. I mean, I don't imagine he got zero out of the NIL fund at this point. Probably didn't cash it all in, but, that's really money wasted. I mean, it's clearly money wasted for Arkansas at this point.
Well, I mean, he had a good spring, and, I mean, there was the potential to keep him. And I'm sure he got, I don't know how these contracts read, but I'm sure he got 4 months' worth of whatever his contract stipulated. It's frustrating, and that plays right into what I'm talking about with getting to know them. Now, the Iamaliavas are a different story altogether with Nico, the family, what happened with Nico at Tennessee, and maybe in the long run, the Razorbacks are better off having been separated from the Iamaliavas because, now apparently they're both going to be at UCLA. Well, this is the program they spurned. And Madden did it on signing day. It was a coup for Arkansas at the time, and they got Jace Brown in the deal, and we'll see how he works out in the fall. But maybe in the long run, it's better that family and the Razorbacks aren't connected.
Are they related to the Ball family out there somehow? I mean, I'm beginning to wonder.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, we got that texture. Tom Murphy with us, courtesy of the Arkansas Beef Council. Tom, baseball-wise, Tommy asked a good question earlier. Now, one of the level of importance this weekend. Under the setup of you have 3 of the top 4 SEC teams down the stretch. What's the number 1 to 10 that you're putting on this weekend for Arkansas to come with the series victory out of Gainesville?
Yeah, I mean that's pumping up there to about an 8. I mean Florida's struggling. I mean they had a nice sweep over Missouri a couple weeks ago, but like A&M, they were very highly regarded. In fact, I think I remember Dave Van Horn saying that Kevin O'Sullivan thought this might be his most talented team.
Wow!
But yet it hasn't come together for them. And here they are, they're in a struggle bus to get into the field right now. So this is a very important series for them if they can beat the number 4 team in the country. But the Razorbacks, after 2 series losses in a row and with what they have coming up, yeah, this is very important for them. Yeah. And let's not overlook Little Rock. Of all the state schools, UALR is the only team that has beaten Arkansas in this, this recent run of scheduling in-state schools, and they've done it twice, including one of them was a rout. So Chris Curry, obviously a guy who's worked with Dave Van Horn, very, very respectful of the program. If you see the paper today, had a piece on that, and so they got to get past the Trojans for 2 games first, and it's going to be interesting to see how the pitching shakes out in these 2 games.
Yeah, and back to the SEC chase, I don't care about winning the regular season or the SEC tournament, but I do think if you are somewhere between 1 and 4 in the finish of the regular season, you're all but assured a top 8 national seed. I can't imagine the number 4 team in this league not being one of the 8 national seeds hosting the second weekend if you advance.
Totally agree with that because, beyond Arkansas, you're looking at, LSU, Tennessee, which, I think they had a series loss last week to Kentucky. But, these are teams that, very, very strong, have pitching and hitting, and serve as great regional hosts. So, yeah, I agree with you that very likely to have 4 top 8 national seeds.
Yeah, and I think probably that number's 5, could push to 6. But, I mean, Clemson's in there right now. Florida State didn't get to play last weekend. They're in that conversation as well. But I think 4 for sure are guaranteed out of this league, and probably 5 would be a safe bet.
Very well could be. Now, these teams play each other. I'm not sure the exact scheduling the rest of the way, but no one's going to have a harder finish than Arkansas with Texas, LSU, and Tennessee coming down the stretch because these are all top 10 teams right now. So, like you say, man, the importance of this Florida series is big time.
Yeah, Tennessee and LSU this weekend, so that's a huge one as well. A&M, who's on the rise and obviously got the win over Arkansas, goes to Austin this weekend and takes on Texas. So it's getting fun to just scoreboard watch in this league, and you're in those games that matter. That's the fun thing is you're one of the teams people are, hey, well, what's going to happen with the Razorbacks because that affects the standings where right now you're second in the league, but you're several games back of Texas at this point.
That's right, man, and I think you're right. Adding Texas and Oklahoma in baseball, I mean, you're talking about two schools. Oklahoma was in the finals just a few years ago. I guess who did Oklahoma lose to? That was the Ole Miss year, maybe.
Yeah, they lost to them in the championship.
Yeah, and so there's some traditional powers, Florida and A&M specifically, that got off to 1-9 or so league starts, and then you got Mississippi State, who just won it a few years ago. They're well under 500. So it has been fascinating to see. It's just like the football or basketball standings. There are really good teams that are going to have losing records in conference play, and how many games below 500 is going to be, the serious cutoff mark for teams to make it into the NCAA field. I'm not sure, but it could be 4, 5, or maybe 6 games below 500. That might be stretching it, but certainly about 4 games below 500 in conference play, you might have a chance.
I'm going to go ahead and rule Missouri out of the tournament, though. I'm going to say right
smart.
now at 0-18 they're not going to make it.
Man, I'm going to go back and count how many run rule games they've been involved in. This is embarrassing. I mean, I know it's not a traditional program. Their home stadium and all that is not great, but they just don't have enough talent to compete, and their pitching staff's getting mauled every weekend.
Yeah. Tom, glad you're sounding great, and we'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.